The heavy oak door of my greenhouse splintered under the force of a sledgehammer, the crash reverberating through the quiet hills of Crestwood Valley like a thunderclap. Vivian Marshall's shrill laughter followed, sharp and gleeful, as she strode through the wreckage, brandishing a flashlight like a conqueror's torch. "I knew you were up to something shady in here, Lucas," she crowed, her voice thick with self-righteous triumph that set my teeth on edge. "This is a sanctioned neighborhood compliance check." Red and blue police lights pulsed outside, casting jagged shadows across her smug face, her eyes glinting as if she'd just unearthed a scandal that would ruin me. "You can't hide from the rules anymore, you lawless recluse," she spat, each word a calculated jab meant to dismantle my life. But what Vivian didn't know was that by smashing her way into my private sanctuary, she hadn't just triggered my state-of-the-art security system, she'd exposed a secret so explosive it would unravel her carefully crafted facade. I'm Lucas Harper, 38, a botanist and widower living a solitary life on the edge of Crestwood Valley, tending to the sprawling greenhouse my late wife, Eliza, and I built on land inherited from her family. That Wednesday evening, I'd been pruning a rare orchid hybrid, a delicate project Eliza and I had started a decade ago, its petals glowing under the soft light of my work lamp. The greenhouse was my refuge, a place where the hum of fans and the scent of damp soil let me escape the chaos of a world that felt emptier without her. For 5 years, I'd poured my heart into cultivating plants that drew researchers and collectors from across the state, keeping to myself and bothering no one. But to Vivian Marshall, the Crestwood Valley HOA president, my quiet existence was an affront to her vision of a pristine, uniform suburb. Vivian had ruled the neighborhood like a dictator for 3 years, ever since she and her real estate mogul husband, Gregory, settled in. At 45, she had the polished look of a corporate shark hallways and tailored blazers, her piercing gaze scanning for any deviation from her rules. She issued fines for untrimmed hedges, interrogated residents over fence heights, and seemed to know everyone's schedules down to the minute. I kept my property immaculate and skipped her mandatory community barbecues, but my independence irked her, like a weed she couldn't uproot from her manicured utopia. The sound of tires crunching on my gravel path had interrupted my work, followed by boots stomping toward the greenhouse. Peering through a fogged pane, I saw Vivian directing 2 police officers, pointing at my building like it was a biohazard zone. Sheriff Daniels, a gruff man I'd met at the local nursery, looked skeptical, while his rookie partner, Officer Tate, clutched his notepad like he expected a fight. Vivian, vibrating with excitement, waved a document like a royal decree. "Officers, we received an anonymous report that Mr. Harper's greenhouse contains illegal substances in violation of county ordinances," she declared with theatrical flair, as if she'd rehearsed it for weeks. "As HOA president, I'm authorized to inspect for community safety." Sheriff Daniels took the paper, his eyes narrowing as he scanned it, clearly unconvinced by her performance. Vivian stood tall, radiating certainty, but I knew something was wrong. She knew too much when I worked late, what I grew, even the layout of my greenhouse. For weeks, I'd noticed odd signs: tire tracks near my back gate, disturbed soil by the fence, a faint glow of a flashlight at midnight. I'd chalked it up to raccoons or my grief-fueled imagination, but now, with Vivian clutching that sledgehammer and a dubious warrant, my suspicions solidified. When she smashed my door, she didn't just destroy property, she revealed a desperation that reeked of something far darker. As she stood in the doorway, breathless with victory, a plastic case slipped from her coat, clattering on the concrete floor. Inside was a USB drive and a folded note. Sheriff Daniels picked them up, his face hardening as he read the scribbled text. "Harper Property, Apex Holdings Acquisition, Containment Strategy, Expedite." A crude map of my land was sketched beside it, with arrows marking entry points. Vivian's smirk vanished, her face paling to a sickly gray. "Ma'am, care to explain this?" Daniels asked, his voice low but laced with suspicion. Officer Tate scribbled furiously, and Vivian's hands trembled as she stammered. "That's just HOA notes. Lucas is growing dangerous plants, endangering us all." Her accusations grew wilder, but her voice cracked, betraying her panic. "Then Mrs. Adler, My 68-year-old neighbor and a retired environmental lawyer stepped forward, holding a tablet. "Officers, I've documented some concerning activity around Lucas's property," she said calmly, swiping to night vision footage of Vivian skulking near my greenhouse with a camera and notepad. "I thought it was vandals, but it's clearly Mrs. Marshall." Vivian's eyes widened in dread. "Why are you conducting nighttime surveillance, Mrs. Marshall?" Daniels pressed, his tone now official. Her claim that I'd stolen the USB from her fell apart when it was found to be password protected with her initials. Her phone buzzed, the screen flashing Director, Apex Holdings. Vivian fumbled to mute it, but the damage was done. "Answer it," Daniels ordered. Her shaky "hello, Gregory" led to a frantic, whispered exchange, her voice shrinking as she said, "He's coming." Gregory Marshall's arrival in a gleaming Range Rover confirmed my fear she wasn't here to save her. Stepping out, his tailored suit couldn't hide his exhaustion. "Vivian, you swore you'd stopped after the Thompson incident," he said, his voice heavy with resignation. He told Daniels that Vivian had been fixated on neighborhood enhancement, researching land values, and coordinating with developers, claiming it was for the HOA's benefit. My friend Caleb Reed, a security tech who'd installed my cameras, arrived just then. "Vivian contracted me for neighborhood security upgrades," he said, checking his laptop. "But she's been accessing feeds to monitor residents' routines and record private conversations. Logs showed her spying on 10 homes for months." A radio call from FBI agent Rachel Adler, Mrs. Adler's daughter, revealed Apex Holdings was under investigation for land fraud across 4 states, using intimidation to force sales. At 1:03 a.m., my security system pinged. Cameras caught Vivian and 2 men breaking into the greenhouse, wielding bolt cutters, aiming for a locked cedar chest where I stored Eliza's botanical journals. Caleb's live stream broadcast their actions to the neighborhood watch. Mrs. Adler recorded from her property, and neighbors flooded the feed with outrage. Vivian pried open the chest, pulling out journals and a sealed envelope. Her face twisted with triumph and terror as she photographed the papers, then tried to shred them. Daniels's spotlight flooded the greenhouse as he arrested her for breaking, vandalism, and evidence tampering. Her accomplices were cornered by neighbors who'd rushed to the scene. The envelope contained Eliza's will and land deeds, plus forged Apex Holdings documents claiming rights to our property. They were the missing proof of a decade-long scam. Vivian's trial, 7 months later, was a media frenzy. Charged with 10 felonies: fraud, conspiracy, racketeering, she got 9 years in prison and full restitution. Apex Holdings was dismantled, its executives jailed, and Officer Tate, who'd taken bribes, was disgraced. Crestwood Valley rebuilt. I turned my greenhouse into a community botany center, teaching kids about plants. Mrs. Adler, now HOA president, launched a legal defense fund. Gregory, divorced from Vivian, represented fraud victims pro bono. At our first Unity Festival, I saw neighbors thrive, united by the truth that together, we could stop even the slyest predators.